Translating in Spanish to effort, Esfuerzo contains Mayan gods, farming techniques being studied for use on Mars, Uncle Sam themed planes dropping drones, a battle using corn to take down a Monsanto/Bayer themed tractor, and more. It's created by Ricardo Miranda Sueniga, an artist and associate professor at Hunter College. Growing up between Nicaragua and San Francisco, they've become very familiar with concepts of inequality and power and integrate those themes into much of their art. Here to talk about Esfuerzo, please welcome to the stage Ricardo Miranda Sueniga.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ricardo Miranda Zuniga, and I'm going to be talking about my project Esfuerzo, which means effort in Spanish. Conceived due to the over 152,000 unaccompanied migrant minors at the Mexico-US border seeking asylum in 2022, the interactive multimedia project Esfuerzo combines workshops, storytelling, art, gameplay, web production, and a paper publication to inform and elicit a new US immigration policy. A spike in apprehension of migrant children crossing the southern US border without a parent or guardian has overwhelmed the system set up to care for them and reinvigorated debate over the detention of minors. Immigration authorities encountered more than 152,000 unaccompanied minors at or near the US-Mexico border in 2022, an all-time high. About 72% of all unaccompanied children in federal care were 15 years of age or older, though authorities have also detained infants and toddlers. So this is from an article last updated in 2023. The reality continues, and the U.S. immigration policy has seen little change over the last 50 years, I'd say over the last 40 years. It's been presidential decrees that have shifted one way and another way. So this project seeks to ask citizens, residents of our country to consider how can change occur. The 2022 wave of unaccompanied migrant minors seeking asylum in the United States were primarily from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, lands that were largely Mayan. Esfuerzo's visual language is informed by Mayan art and culture. The platformer-style video game draws from Mayan religious traditions as a framework to present a hero's journey. Kukulkan, the serpent deity of Mayan mythology, a creator god and bringer of rains and winds, is featured. Apuch, the Mayan god of death, disaster, and darkness, who rules over the underworld, Ixbalba, which is the first level. Apuch is the first enemy that joven, meaning youth, must overcome. Chalcatzingo Monument 9, recently repatriated to Mexico, as a portal between levels. And I have other characters that haven't quite made it to the game in the current version. The game begins with a teen with instructions for game control upon the start of the first scene. Throughout the game, the main character is merely referred to as youth, meaning joven in Spanish. I grew up watching the longest-running Mexican sketch comedy series titled Chespirito, and my favorite character was the bumbling superhero El Chapulín Colorado, or the Red Cricket. I inserted El Chapulín as a sort of guide, but also as a dialogue element to help present the story. This initial exchange sets up the story of the game as the youth tells him that he is walking to the US, where he hopes to find work and send money to his family. I drew from my dad's reality here. His name, Reynaldo Miranda. He was 19 when his father died, and he immigrated from Nicaragua to San Francisco, where he eventually bought a small house and brought his mother and sisters to live with him. El Chapulín tells the youth that he will traverse Mayan lands. And here is an image of the pickups that the youth will encounter: water pickup and corn pickup, and wak, which is a representation of the number 6 and also stands for good fortune, are Mayan glyphs, or rather based on Mayan glyphs. The portal between levels is based on an ancient sculpture, monument number 9 of Chalcatzingo, an ancient Olmec earth monster that dates between 800 and 400 BC, that is believed to have symbolized the passageway to the underworld. So the youth falls through to the next level, where he finds himself in Ixbalba. This screenshot shows the top of Ixbalba with the portal to the next level as one tries to jump from platform to platform. Fire, thorny vines, falling skulls, and 9 Lords of the Night cause damage. At the bottom, Apuch, a Mayan death god, tells the player that to escape, he must visit the other Lords of the Night, and he can only access them by picking up human hearts as offerings. The human hearts do work as keys, and they will open up the vines, but the vines will open and close throughout once they have been opened. The level has 2 friendly spirits. This one tells him that Apuch lies. He doesn't need to pay tribute to the Bolontinku, the 9 Lords of the Night, as they will only hurt him, and that he can just climb out and to drink water to survive. The Mayans believed that the underworld had several rooms of torture, such as the freezing room, the knife room, a room full of bats, and the upside down room, in which one's reality is turned upside down. So I included an area where gravity is flipped. The second friendly tells him that the Mayans believed in 3 realms: the underworld, Ixpalba, the earth, which is the great land of corn, and the heavens, where the 13 lords, Oxlahintuku, reside. And here he is, reaching the top to take the portal to the next level. Once the player escapes Ixpalba, they land on Earth, but in the past. Chapulin receives him and tells him a story about the skull of the magical twins who challenged and defeated the Lords of Death in a ball game, but eventually grew tired of playing them, and one of them surrendered and died. The Lords of Death hung his skull on an eggplant tree from which the skull printed twins. The Mayan tale refers to the cyclical nature of life. And here's a little bit more history or reality. The Mayan milpa is a regenerative form of agriculture. The milpa is a cultivation system in which the land is used to plant various products together, mainly corn, beans, and pumpkin. That's las tres hermanas. The milpa maintains diversity and nutrition, does not wear down the soil, and forms a complete ecosystem. The player is directed to climb this pyramid where the player encounters Kukulkan, one of the creator gods from Mayan mythology. Kukulkan shares highly abbreviated Mayan creation story. He declares, "I am Kukulkan, I control the 4 elements, earth, wind, water, and fire. At the beginning, there was nothing. Then there was sea and land. At that time, I, Kukulkan of the heavens, met with Urakan of the sea to create the world through our words. Everything we said was created. First, we spoke the mountains and vegetation. Later, we created animals and ordered them to speak, but they only barked and howled, for which their destiny is to be flesh for food. We sought to create speaking creatures to worship us. First, we used mud, but those figures dissolved. Then wood, but they had no language. Finally, we mixed water with white and yellow corn to create humans of flesh and bone with language." The player continues. Here, the whack is a pickup that will slow down the game, making gameplay easier, such as avoiding these cannonballs set by the Spanish conquistadors. And this is a portrait shot that isn't available through the game. You only see a much narrower area. But here you get a sense of you have to climb to get to the portal and avoid the flying conquistador. And once there, you continue to the next level, which is very similar to the past level, but set in the present. The milpa for the planet Mars. Although for centuries the Mayans have been cultivating corn along with other crops, the milpa continues to be the heart of Mexican agriculture because it is a sustainable cultivation system. Today, astrobiologists are studying the milpa as an agricultural system for the planet Mars. To continue and present a little bit more of history and social reality, the ejidos is a term for communal land. Since the Aztecs, the term ejido was meant the land of the people. After the Mexican Revolution, 1910 to 1920, ejidos were administered by the government to grant lands to peasant communities. And one continues and encounters a flying Uncle Sam that drops droids as a representation of the North American Free Trade Agreement between the US, Canada, and Mexico, and the power of the United States to lobby for neoliberal change. Privatization of communal lands, poverty, and migration. In the 1990s, due to NAFTA, the pressure from the US, and neoliberal economic restructuring by Mexico, the ejidos were privatized. Peasants lost their farmland and livelihood. The increase in poverty caused massive migration, first to the capital, Mexico City, and then further north to the United States. And in the background, we see a silhouette representation of Mexico City. One continues and encounters a floating tusk of corn. Arm yourself with the power of corn, aim and shoot with your mouse, or use the letter E to shoot. Harvest in Mexico, where the player now battles this tractor that has labeled Monsanto, which is now Bayer. The battle represents an ongoing international agreement battle between Mexico and industrial farming corporations, where the communal farmlands were privatized. Monsanto, a US company, was one of the powerful entities to buy up these communal lands. Threat to the milpa. Unfortunately, agricultural biotechnology corporations like Monsanto, now Bayer, are suing Mexico to introduce genetically modified corn that would require corn to be grown as a single crop. So far, Mexico has successfully fought these corporations. And on to the second to last level, where the player encounters other travelers. The player can no longer jump or dash, meets companions for the final leg of the journey. The first friend is named Leo, which means lion in Latin and is a common symbol for strength. Leo and El Joven, the youth, encounter Esperanza, which is a common name in Latin America, but also is the word for hope. The three of them walk together and encounter El Chapulín Colorado, who congratulates him for finding community and tells him to continue straight ahead. And once they cross a river, they will be in the United States, where they should look for the border police, immediately kneel down, put their arms down, and ask for asylum. They cross the river onto the US, where we get a little bit of information. The Immigration Act of 1924 created the United States Border Patrol. 100 years later, approximately 17,000 agents guard the border with Mexico, and there are 654 miles of barrier. In 2023, the Border Patrol budget was $17.5 billion, and it increases every year. If one clicks end, it will go to the final dialogue between the youth and El Chapulín Colorado. Joven, you've made it to the US, and now you will be processed and sent to a safe environment to thrive. Do you have any relatives here? If not, the Office of Refugee Resettlement will find you a sponsor or foster care. The youth replies, my uncle is expecting me. He promised my mother that he will take good care of me, get me into school to learn English, and help me find a job. To which a Chapulín replies, work is good, but language and education are most important. People treat you better when you know English. Many discriminate against immigrants as they say that we take jobs, but that has not been true. Even back during the Great Depression, many citizens of Mexican descent were repatriated to Mexico to open up jobs. But instead, the Mexican repatriation increased unemployment and depressed wages due to the loss of population. Throughout the history of the United States, immigrants have lifted national and local economies. In the Northeast, some towns that were depressed and abandoned 20 years ago are now thriving due to immigrant populations. The youth tells them, I'm so proud to be here, but I miss my mother and siblings so much, and I wonder when I'll see them again. To which Chapulín replies, many immigrants yearn to return home, but can't for fear of not being permitted to return. The youth states, this country needs a coherent immigration policy that recognizes the benefits of immigrants, skilled and unskilled. And this second to last slide represents the game, the narrative of the game, represented in a comic format. And on the other side is an abbreviated history of US immigration policy with space for people to consider what a new immigration policy could look like that takes our reality today to the forefront. So a few things to share. Building a game, taking on a large project, project can feel overwhelming, so it's helpful to break problems down to a series of steps or tasks. Start simple and build complexity little by little. Make sure basic functionality is effective before adding more. Conceiving and creating a game takes time, sometimes a lot of time. As long as you are invigorated by a project, keep at it, and even when the excitement drops, try hard to work through it. Carving out 4 hours of your day to focus and work goes a long way. And even if 4 hours seems like too much, 2 hours can work. Gratitude. Family and friends tested my game along the way, caught bugs, made technical suggestions, and helped me along. I'd like to give special thanks to music composer Juan Luming, who created the tracks.
Thank you so much for that talk, Ricardo. Games have the power to inspire, not just when we play them, but when we make them as well. They can be vehicles for social change, in no small part by helping us come to new understandings of the world around us, and help us see things in our head in a new light. Yes, Hoven's journey through the world of Esfuerzo is a bit absurd, but it makes sense. When we think about the things that some people have to do just to find basic safety, how does that not feel absurd? Being able to translate some of that, as well as much culture, into the game, it's a powerful, thought-provoking piece. And I hope it serves as an action-provoking piece as well. If you'd like to follow Ricardo, you can find information about them on their website, embriente.com. Also, there are a number of social media links, as well as a history of their past works. Thank you so much for your talk. All right, folks, it's time for a short break. Go ahead, grab some water, stretch it out a little bit, maybe swing over to Swap Card, see if you can catch up with some other Game Devs of Color Expo attendees. When we come back, Sharpie is going to be taking her own little time travel back to Rio de Janeiro in 1937. The devs are putting together a game about real mysterious murder mystery. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you when we get back.